All right, good morning, everybody. It is Thursday, March 13th, 9:04 a.m. I'm going to call the meeting of the Marathon County Infrastructure Committee meeting to order. Welcome, everybody. Second is Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Next on our agenda, we have public comment. Do we have anybody signed up for public comment? We do not. We'll move on to item 4. Approval of February 6, 2025 Infrastructure Committee meeting minutes. A motion by Dickinson, second by Swaybert. Any further questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval of the February 6, 2025 Infrastructure Committee meeting minutes signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Thank you. Minutes are approved for February 6, 2025. We'll move on to policy issue, discussion, and potential committee determination. A, possible land sale of excess right-of-way, 2501 North 28th Avenue. I'll turn it over to staff.
Thank you. I'll handle that one. In your packet, you were included a briefing memo on this parcel and also a proposed decision-making tree kind of that we laid out way back in the fall of 2021. As you recall, we have purchased land out for the 28th Avenue project in the early 2000s. This particular parcel was purchased in 2007. Since that, there's been several factors that the project has not ever materialized, and we are no longer going to develop that parcel. So we had a lot of land along that we already had bought through the years prior to that decision being made in 2021. So the corridor is between the city of Wausau and the village of Maine. So one of the things that we asked the two municipalities is what are their plans, and if we get rid of that land, what are their plans for it? So the city of Wausau is still in council right now. They're hoping to have, speaking to the city last week, they're hoping to have an answer sometime in June what to do with the land and where the road's going to be replaced in the city portion. The Village of Maine, just this past Monday, they had it on their agenda, and the only thing they would like us to do if we decide to sell a parcel of land, which the land that I'm going to be talking about here shortly is in the Village of Maine, they would like us to contact them prior to selling any of the excess right-of-way that we purchase. There's areas out there that most roads are laid out to a 4-rod road or 66 feet, 33 feet on the other side of the road. There's some parcels out there they don't even have that as existing right-of-way. So they would like us to contact them prior to selling each parcel to see if they would like to buy back a small strip along 28th Avenue for their own use. So I did talk to them about this parcel at 2501 North 28th Avenue. So we bought a piece of land out there in 2007. The total area taken was 0.264 acres, and the original owners that we bought it from was Mr. Kalinsky. We paid a total sum of $15,118.98 for that parcel. Since that time, Kalinskys have sold it to William Balaga and Tracy Cousins. I've been contacted by William about they would like to purchase that land back. So what I did is I broke that down in the briefing meetings for the committee for some decisions. You can go with any of these or come up with something on your own, but the options we have is we could retain that land for future expansion. Very unlikely that that's ever going to happen. So that would be one option. We could sell it back to Mr. Malaga at the original price of the $15,118. I did have Runkle Abstract do a title search and some deed preparation. So that's another $225. So the total sale of the parcel would be $15,343.98 with all closing costs borne by the buyer. But we'd also give the village an opportunity to buy back 8.25 feet at a cost to be prorated. Another option I threw out there is to sell back the land to Mr. Balaga at current fair market value. That would put that parcel at $22,677.82, plus Runkel's cost, resulting in a total cost of $22,902.82, with closing costs going to the buyer and giving the opportunity to the village. Or you could develop your own costs or just go on what it is, fair market value of land in that area. That last one, what I did is I took what we bought that strip of land for, and I took what their home value increased in that time and used that percentage. This last one is just what's the current land value in that area is $18,972. So we could sell that back to them for $5,502.16 plus the $225, and also giving the village an opportunity to buy back their 8.25. I guess my recommendation, if you're asking for it, if it means anything, so the county would not lose anything on this, I would recommend that the county sell back the original strip of land back to Mr. Balaga for the $15,118 plus the title and deed preparation, total of $15,343, plus all closing costs, be responsibility of buyer, and also give the Village of Maine an opportunity to buy back their 8.25 feet, to give them 66 feet. So after you would take that 8.25 feet off of there, the total cost to Mr. Balaga would be $12,311.66. And if the village would like to buy their parcel back, it'd be $3,032.32 to the Village of Maine. With that,
What is the thoughts of the committee? Motion by Jensen. Do we have a second? Second by Soibert. Discussion. No discussion. All those in favor of moving forward with the staff recommendation signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? We have 4-0 unanimous vote. Thank you for your work on that, Mr. Griesbach. We'll move on to item 6, operational functions required by statute, ordinance, resolution, or policy, which we have none for except for 6B, discussion and possible action by infrastructure to forward to county board for consideration. 1, 2025 Work Zone Awareness Week resolution. I'll hand it over to staff.
Thank you. Again, we have the Work Zone Awareness Week, April 21st to 25th. Again, our workers are out there at that time of year. Wisconsin's going to be doing several events throughout the state, one in each region. This one number to point out on there, I won't go through all the whereases. I'll just hit one. Between 2020 and 2024, Marathon County recorded 161 work zone accidents, resulting in 46 injuries. That's just in Marathon County. We had 161 accidents. Every year, we're seeing that number keep rising. Unfortunately, it's most of the time it's inattentive driving, work being done out there and people just ain't paying attention. So this is a resolution that we would like to forward on to the full board and pass on to the Sheriff's Department after that, work with them greatly on our work zones, helping to reinforce it. Our guys are out there in a lot of dangerous situations and people just don't slow down. A side note, it wasn't in a work zone, but the work that the Highway Department does is always some very dangerous work. Yesterday, there was a bad accident in Winnebago County between two of their workers. One worker did not see another one behind his truck, and he backed over him. He's in serious condition right now, a critical condition. I'm not sure which. But this sad note, and again, that the guys out there working are working in some dangerous situations. We just like to recognize Work Zone Awareness Week.
Do we have a motion or questions, comments from the committee? Motion by, or a question for Jensen.
Were there any employees that were injured within these 161 work zone accidents?
There were no Marathon County employees injured. Not sure about private, though. That number is, for all contractors, but we fortunately did not have anybody injured. Since I've been at the highway department, which has been a very long time, we had one fatality in our work zones back in the 90s. And we've had a couple other very serious accidents. So we've had people on permanent light duty after one accident and, like I said, a fatality. So, but none of those numbers of 161 were county employees.
Thank you.
Anybody like to make a motion?
I make a motion to approve the 2025 Work Zone Awareness Week resolution.
Motion by Vice Chair Dickinson, second by Soibert. Further questions or comments? Hearing none. Go ahead.
That inattentive driving is a problem throughout the state. Ask bus drivers. They have the same problem. I don't know, how do you fix it? Bus drivers are taking down license plate numbers and getting them tickets, and it doesn't help. It's just inattentive driving. And we just got to stay on top of the people to wake up. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor of the Work Zone Awareness Week resolution signify by saying aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? We have a 4-0 unanimous approval. Move on to item 7, educational presentations and committee discussion. County Highway XXX and Pine Street intersection control evaluation report. Hand it over to staff.
Take this one. The X and XX intersection has been one kind of keep an eye on a fairly regular basis. And this year we had JT Engineering do a traffic analysis on that. That intersection right now is a two-way stop condition where the north-south traffic is a through traffic and the east-west is has the stop condition. It's kind of a little bit of a different one. The westbound traffic coming off of Highway X is actually like the highest volume on there, but the west leg of that intersection is the lowest volume. So the balance out on it, the north-south traffic actually has the higher total volume. It's just the busiest leg is that east leg on there. They looked at the crashes on it. They looked at the traffic volumes on it. And basically what they had found is it's operating at an acceptable level of service. They do have during the afternoon peak hour, that east leg for the westbound traffic that comes in there does have probably the highest delay. I think it's about 32 seconds is the average delay. So there are some backups and some queuing issues there. If they would look at doing an all-way stop condition on it, it actually raises the delay because now you're stopping every vehicle that comes into it instead of letting the north-south traffic go through. They also looked at a roundabout for it in like a 20-year life cycle for that. That would have the lowest level of delay, so it'd be the most efficient and the most safest, but it comes at a price tag of probably about $1.2 to $1.5 million versus an all-way stop, which I think was like $26,000. Their recommendation right now, though, is to take like an incremental approach to this. It operates at a reasonable level of service right now, and their first step was to look at, there's a little bit of a vision obstruction in the northwest corner of doing some work with getting some right-of-way and clearing that vision corner out, and then kind of keep an eye on it and see if we'd want to move it up to an all-way stop control in the future or look at that roundabout option. It does not meet traffic signal warrants, so that they didn't look very far into that because it didn't meet that. We did look at safety funds through the DOT, and it would be eligible for, I think it was about $500,000 worth of safety funds. The way those funds work, though, they have a cost-benefit ratio, so they wouldn't be applicable to doing something like a roundabout in there because the cost for the roundabout is so much higher than what the benefit would be. So it would be applicable if you want to do an all-way stop and reconfigure the intersection to make it look more like a busy urban intersection and upgrade your signs, upgrade the just the awareness for the drivers as they come through there. I will let you know that right now this is the preliminary draft of it. I did have them go back and take a look at some of the 24 crashes that when they did their initial take, that data wasn't finalized yet. So we are looking at that to finalize this. we have some meetings coming up, actually this afternoon with them to go through the report before they finalize it. So just kind of an update. Essentially, though, what their recommendation at this time is to just do some minor improvements on it and then kind of keep tabs on the crashes and monitor see if things get worse or better over time.
Any questions or comments? Go ahead.
There's some businesses on that corner. Is that a problem when going to work and when they're getting out of work? With those businesses? I think there's, according to the map that I'm looking at.
You're looking at the there's a southeast side, there's an office building, and then the northeast is a gas station and restaurant.
Okay.
Yeah, and that Valley Communities Credit Union that's on the southeast corner isn't very busy. It's a smaller office.
Does that bring a lot of traffic in? Probably, huh? The gas station and,
The gas station probably has, I would say that has more than the credit union on the south side, but when they brought in their designs for that, we worked with them and they moved their access points further to the north and further to the east, so they're away from the intersection. So I don't believe there's much delay that they're experiencing with that. It's just
Okay.
that westbound traffic coming in, particularly during those afternoon peak times, is when there's some delay there.
thank you.
And I know when the time the gas station was developed, the county had purchased some right-of-way for that does provide some real estate in that area, sets the property back, or the gas station back a little further, provides room for potential improvements in the future.
Yeah, it's reserved, but it wasn't purchased at
Okay.
the time.
Thanks. I know this is in Croninwetter, it's a hot topic for conversation. I've utilized it a number of times, and level of service at times during peak hours can be a little slow, but I think in the bigger picture, we're very fortunate as a whole within Marathon County, and when somebody has to sit at an intersection for 15 seconds to 30 seconds, it can feel like an inconvenience, but in the bigger picture of other areas, it's very convenient. So I think it's important that we continue to monitor this stuff. And I know there's been a number of accidents there over time, and some of those can be high speed with, I think it's a 45 through there.
Yeah, it's 35 on the north-south, and it's 45 coming in for the westbound.
Okay. But even at 35, there can be some violent crashes there. So it's just important that we continue to monitor those things. Not looking for any motion on this, I take it?
No.
Okay. Any further questions, comments? Supervisor Seubert?
How much did that survey cost?
Which one was?
I don't have it on top of my head.
I will dig it up.
It looks like a pretty extensive survey, so I'm sure it wasn't cheap, was it?
That's what I was thinking.
You can answer later.
Yep.
I don't have to know now.
You have it.
Should just scroll to the last page. Yep. Yeah, it was. Let's just have multiples in it. Let me go through it because there were 3 different things that we looked at in here, so I don't give you bad information.
We can come back to that.
Yep.
Let's give you some time to look at that. Any further questions, comments? Hearing, seeing none, let's move on to item 7B, 2025 bid opening results. Hand it over to staff.
So we did our first bid openings with Bid Express this year. That's an electronic bidding platform. So we work with Corp Counsel to change some of our verbiage to allow online bidding with it. It's a secure site that we can use. We send out our data. We put our bid tabulations right on there. The vendors go in, they just fill in their prices, and they hit their submit and sign button with it. and they come in. We're not able to see any of the bids before the advertised bid opening date and time. So we still did a traditional bid opening. It's just most of the bids were all done online. So we just pulled up the online, hit the open bids, and we still did public readings as what's in our procurement code with it. But vendors seem to like it. We're getting used to a couple of the different nuances with it, but it seems to be a very efficient way to get our information out there and to really be able to tabulate those bids quickly. We did our asphalt bid, and essentially the prices were up about 3% compared to last year. We also did our pulverizing and milling, and those costs were similarly up right around 3% on the average. I think the bid tabs are in your packet. If you had any specific questions on those, we could hit them.
Go ahead, Supervisor
I
Jensen.
think the only question I have is, did we get the same participation from vendors like as in prior years? The same rough number?
Yes, we had pretty much all the same bidders. What it does is it actually goes out, and just about every contractor that we've worked with, I've been able to find that they are in there. So then our main, say we have about 7 milling contractors that usually bid on our stuff. We put them right in the bidders list, so an invite goes out to them. So they can either be subscribed to all of Marathon County, they can be subscribed to like milling, or since I put them in the invitation list, it automatically goes out to whoever their contact is at their organization.
Any further questions, comments? Hearing none, thank you for the update on the bids. 7C, discussion on Chapter 8 of Marathon County Comprehensive Plan. We'll hand it over to our CPZ staff.
Thank you, Chair. So as a reminder, as we move through the comprehensive plan update, every month we're tackling 1 to 2 chapters, drafting them or starting the draft. We work with the departments that are involved with that chapter, and then we bring it to the respective standing committee, and then we also take it to executive committee with the goal to get some initial input from you all, take it back and refine it, and then create a full draft later this summer for the county board to review and for the public to give comment on as well. So for the infrastructure chapter, that goes to the infrastructure committee, of course, and we did have a chance to initially meet with highways, the metropolitan planning organization staff, solid waste, and airports to do some initial updates to the draft that is in your packet starting on page 90. I'll highlight some of the things we've already started to pull in and some of the additional stuff we've identified we want to pull into the chapter, and then ask you all for your input on other things we should look at including as we complete this draft. So in starting on page 90, we did add several plans or studies that have been conducted over the last decade related to highways, the airport, and solid waste in terms of things that have informed what's going on with our infrastructure here in the county. And then moving through the document, we have gone through and done some initial updates on the transportation statistics and network. And we've also identified with highways, if you go to page 95, that we do think we need to add in a section on county road maintenance as it relates to the PACER rating and equipment that the highways department maintains. We think it's important to have that data in there to understand what it really takes to maintain our county highway system. We also worked with airports starting on page 97, just to add some updated information that they have regarding their facilities out at the airport, things they're working on from their master plan, and additional or changes to service that have happened at the airport in the last decade. And then in terms of utilities, most of this is just updating data that we have related to our utilities. We did add a section around page, where did that go? Hold on. Okay, we'll come back to that. But we are on page 102 of your packet. We are going to add a section related to stormwater management. That's just related to our requirements of inspecting and managing inlets and outlets related to our stormwater management permit. And in the utilities, we've also added a section related to the expansion or the interest in expanding wind and solar within our county. So we wanted to make sure that we're documenting that, and then renewable energy and natural gas as well. In the telecommunications section, starting on page 105. We updated all of that to try and capture everything that's been going on with broadband expansion in the county. So that's our first attempt at that. We know there's still a lot developing as it relates to the BEAD application process too. So some of that may need to change or evolve later this year, depending on what goes on with funding levels there. And in solid waste management, we expanded that section a little bit too, just to highlight some of the things that have happened in the last decade, including the closing of Area B in 2024 and the opening of the Bluebird Ridge active landfill site in the last year. And we've also added a section about the renewable natural gas plant that is being developed at the solid waste facility. Going to the issues section that always comes at the end of each chapter of the comprehensive plan, and that starts on page 109 of your packet. I think a lot of the issues are still remain the same from a decade ago, but with some changes. I think with sustainable transportation and the text in red below that, I think one of the things that was the common theme in talking with highways, the airport, and solid waste is just that idea of operational costs, what it takes to maintain our infrastructure in the county, and when is the right time to invest to make sure that it's most cost effective and life cycle effective, so that we don't go so far as to have to spend more money completely replacing certain parts of our infrastructure. So I think that issue still remains. It's not, we have sustainable transportation system, but right under it, we just sort of identified that we feel like across the board with our infrastructure in the county, that's a common theme or discussion. Transit is still a topic that is being talked about in our county. I think recent conversations through the Metropolitan Planning Organization, our Transportation Coordinating Committee, have identified that there's certainly still a need and a desire to expand certain types of transit service, especially as it relates to serving seniors. But there's also, from our surrounding communities, they don't see it as a funding priority right now, especially as it relates to fixed route transit. So their interest is more in what type of on-demand services and things like that that could be expanded in the future. That those are things they might have more interest in. But right now, fixed route service is not the greatest, I guess I would say, desire outside the metropolitan or outside the Wausau area. In terms of non-motorized transportation facilities, there's still that desire to provide those. I think a lot of that focus has gone more to just educating people on how to use the facilities and getting around the community, making a livable community where you can walk and bike. For the Central Wisconsin Airport, the issue that we discussed with them was just continuing to be competitive as a smaller market. They continue to try and compete with all these other regional airports to attract pilots and aircraft to our community, and that's going to continue to be an issue. They identified that some communities are offering revenue guarantees to keep these services, and that's just something they wanted to highlight. That is something that will probably continue to be a discussion here in Marathon County. The other issue we added to this draft is PFAS. I think you've all heard lots of talk about PFAS, so that's going to continue to be something that will have to be addressed, especially as it relates to the solid waste department, as they address what to do with their leachate and also what they can accept at the landfill from other municipalities as well. And then adequate internet coverage. Obviously, we are in the process of expanding, but just making sure that that didn't fall off the list, that it still remains important in that post-COVID era to have that internet access for our people so that we can grow our economy and business. I think that's all we had at this point. I don't know if Highways wants to add anything else at this point, but.
Any additions from staff? Any questions, comments from the committee? I think overall in reviewing it, I think staff hit on anything I can think of. I thought it was well put together. As we move forward over 10 years, a lot of things still stay the same. Our roads are important. Our broadband's becoming more important. But any questions, comments from the committee? Vice Chair Dickinson.
Yeah, the only thing I was going to mention, being on the airport board with Tom, they're doing a great job there. They're really working hard to, provide a top-class facility. And so with the transient hangar and then the new FBO terminal, we saw some, on Tuesday, we saw some of the materials in that. So one of the things, they're, again, working to find that low-cost carrier. Those discussions go on. But the revenue guarantee was something that was offered to the previous airline. And so that certainly is something that we have to consider in order to, to maintain long-term a low-cost carrier. Thanks.
Thank you. Are we looking for a recommendation or anything from CP, or for the?
No, at this point, we would just take any initial comments. If you look at it later and you have additional comments you want to forward over to us, you can email me and we'll make sure that we get those incorporated. We'll do an initial discussion with executive next week as well. And then we'll go back and try and refine a full draft, so.
Wonderful. Any further questions, comments from the committee? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 7D, excuse me, CCIT projects. I don't see our director here at all, but his report is in your packet. Questions, comments that I wouldn't be able to answer if you did? Hearing, see, yeah, we'll have Jim take care of any of Jerry's questions, comments. Seeing none, we'll move on to item 8, next meeting date and time, announcements and future agenda items. 8A, committee members are asked to bring ideas for future discussions. Do we have anything? Supervisor Dickinson?
Yeah, one thing I was going to mention is most likely in April, I'd like to do a strategic plan review of the documentation that we have currently. Since we're talking about comprehensive plan, we'll have a new one sometime next year. But we need to probably look at our dates and look at our goals and objectives and get that squared away for the rest of this year at least. Thanks.
Sounds good. Supervisor Soibert?
How many more parcels do we control that we wouldn't ever be using, Jim? I know there's Man Street north of Marshfield. The county owns a right-of-way through there, don't they? From years ago when they were gonna,
No, I've heard that rumor out there. There's no,
you don't have control of
nothing
any
about in
possible
that area.
roadway through
No.
there.
As far as like the 28th corridor out there, we have some along County Trunk Highway R that are still remaining, some small parcels. The majority of the parcels are on 28th Avenue. Again, once the city determines their new route after June, that would be where the majority of them would be. So we kind of need to wait to hear City of Wausau's final decision in June.
Anybody have anything further for future items? Hearing none, we will move on to item 8B. Next meeting date is Thursday, April 3rd, 2025, 9 a.m. With that, I'd take a motion for adjournment. Vice Chair Dickinson with a motion, second by Soibert. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you for your time. Have a great rest of your day.
You know, they put sewer in, I mean, they put manholes, there's manholes along that stretch. Okay. Somebody did, I don't think the city of Marshfield did.